What's up, everybody? Welcome to this edition of Big Drive Energy. In studio together.
I'm back.
Again.
I'm back.
Back, and he's better.
Back like I never left.
Today, we're going to talk about players coming to the PGA Tour, which seems like something we haven't talked about in a long time. Q School just finished up.
First Q School in 10 years.
10 years. That's been a long time.
It's kind of a big deal.
That's
PGA Tour Q School.
Yeah, I was a teenager, and now I'm 30.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah,
fun.
we'll get into that a little bit because I always thought that was wild.
Yeah, I'm old now. We're also going to talk about Angel Cabrera, back reinstated to the PGA Tour world, kind of like senior
The
tours,
golf world,
PGA
yeah.
Tour guy, and some questions behind that, because that's definitely, when you dig a little deeper into that story, it's not the happy reunion of the kid that grew up with nothing that ended up making the PGA Tour. There's a lot more to it, so we're going to get into that. And we're also going to talk about Kevin Kisner, one of the fan favorite PGA Tour players, getting into some broadcasting. NBC Sports, he's going to do a couple of tournaments coming up in 2024. We're going to finish it up with a fairway or four and send y'all off for what we're celebrating Christmas holiday. All right, let's tee it up. Back in studio together again. We've been talking about it, but now that day is here, and it's not like, I don't know. Is it fun? Is it fun being next to me?
Yeah, it's a good time. You kind of get used to doing remote shows and then switching back, like sitting next to you.
Switching back and forth.
Yeah. Sitting next to you is a little different for sure. Do you like having like 1,600 miles between us? Does it make you miss me more?
You know that,
or is there no miss each other?
There's no miss each other. No, there is, but like we still talk as much, or if not more, than we used to when we lived close to each other.
Yeah,
especially when we were not working at the same place. But the biggest difference I think now for me is I don't like know what you do. Like I know what your job is.
I don't know what you do either. Well, do you know what an option is? You can always ask. Like you can ask what I'm doing. You can, and you don't need to like interrogate me, but you can always just like, do you know what I find weird is you have no idea where I live.
That's what I was trying to say originally.
Yeah. Like when I go someplace, you don't know what that place looks like.
No, I don't. I'm completely in the dark to your current life as an adult.
Yeah.
Away from me.
Which is pretty wild.
Yeah. That part is unreal. You want to recap our trip to Detroit?
Other than the football game.
Yeah. So as you welcome, if you're new, welcome to the show. We are Denver kids, grew up in the state of Colorado. Mitchell now lives in New Jersey. I live in Colorado still. Only place I've ever lived, and we talked about this on the way here. Actually, the only place I might ever live. But so we're from Colorado, diehard Denver sports fans. Rockies, Nuggets, Broncos,
Rockies,
Avalanche.
not so much.
Rep the CR, baby.
Yeah,
I'm addicted.
Spencer's got issues. Yeah, you are a true sicko. Like, I can't root for that team. I hate to say it, but I've kind of lost my passion for baseball. We don't really need to go into that, but the Rockies have single-handedly ruined baseball for me.
Yeah, they've kind of.
Well, and realistically, let's just talk about this real quick, because salary cap, and this goes for the PGA Tour now, this goes for everything. The MLB not having a salary cap, I think, kind of ruins the sport. What do you think?
I think after the Shohei Ohtani news, a lot of people are ruined on baseball. I'm not ruined on it. It's kind of always been what it is, but now it makes it even more fun when like the Dodgers choke in the playoffs, because you can throw the two teams that throw the most money at every single offseason at their franchise, the Yankees and the Dodgers. They've won one World Series in the last like 10 to 15 years.
And you got to throw the Mets in there recently, and they've been terrible also.
Yeah, they're just a tragedy from game one, from March all the way through. At least the Dodgers and Yankees compete. The Dodgers more than the Yankees for sure. But it's a matter of like, I like to stick it to those teams.
Absolutely.
When they just spend so... The Padres are a semi-small example of that. And then it came out that they're freaking borrowing money to try to pay their players up front, and they were taking out loans. Absolutely hilarious scenario.
Yeah, when you own an MLB team and you're like going upside down on your franchise, and your franchise is worth billions of dollars, you probably have issues.
Yeah, just like me. Lots of issues. So our trip to Detroit, went to the Broncos game. That was our 11th or 12th year.
I think our 11th.
year in a row of taking an away game trip. Usually do it around my birthday. So we used to do it in the winter because we worked at a golf course and that's when we can get time off. But now we just chuck the deuces up to our jobs and say,
just do it whenever we want.
We'll be gone this weekend. Thank you.
No, it's pretty nice.
Detroit was surprisingly, I liked it.
Very clean, very nice.
Yeah.
Like
pleasantly surprised. That's what I was trying to say.
Absolutely. I feel like every city, you know, Detroit was originally like the big it's called the Motor City, and there's still a lot of like plants up there, but it got really like run down there for a while, and everybody, I mean, the whole M&M thing, I feel like that's kind of the Detroit shtick. Like you wanted to go to 8 Mile. I don't even know where that is. Do you know where 8 Mile is?
It's just there's an 8 Mile road.
It's just a road.
It's an area, but it's also a road.
Oh, there's also M&M owns a restaurant called Mom's Spaghetti there.
Yeah.
Which is pretty gas.
We had a reservation for 2 for knees weak, arms are heavy, but they didn't have it. So.
That was my joke. You can steal that from me. That's fine.
Well, I was just hoping it came up.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that.
Say the joke.
Say that. Knees weak, arms are heavy. Vomit on your sweater already. Mom's Spaghetti. Detroit. Really cool like retail buildings. Like there's a lot of old school architecture that they've redone. There was just like a Lululemon and like a random, I would compare it to like 16th Street here in Denver, but nicer. Would you agree?
It was very clean. There's
like a Gucci store, which I don't automatically assume makes a place nice, but the building was like super cool, like old school, like red. And then it had like green trim along the building and then the green trim around the Gucci store. I was very impressed. I was like, this is cool.
Yeah. The holiday decorations were plentiful there. We got
lost.
Mitchell let me let you in on a story about Mitchell or about his life. He's big direction guy. Like he always thinks he knows where he's going. And most of the time he does. But when we're together, I kind of just take a back seat and let him navigate. And that turned into what ended up being the next day was a 0.4 mile walk. And we probably walked 3.5 miles around the city. Because he's like,
we did not
I think our hotel's due west at 130 degrees.
I just wanted to see the Christmas lights. We walked to the Christmas lights, and then from there, I got lost.
Yeah, we got lost. A few stories. When we were lost, we were on the corner, and I will say, for Detroit, funny. We saw a jersey there. I saw a jersey of a guy that was sitting next to us that said Super Bowls 00, which was pretty hilarious. So Detroit, as we know, if you're an NFL football fan, pretty bleak history, but really good fans. And I will say it was it was probably the loudest stadium we've ever been to, or it felt like it was. Especially the first couple of drives, once they started beating our ass, it was a little more quiet. But the first couple of drives the Broncos on third down, like it was as loud as, and we've been to Arrowhead.
Everybody was standing. Everybody was yelling. Very, very loud.
Yeah. So good stadium. The fans were a little more, we got a lot of FU, like than I had anticipated, because I don't hate the Lions. Like if that was a Chiefs game or Raiders game, I would have felt a little more worried, I guess, if you will, to be like chastised. For sure. The Lions, I was like, if we would have won that game, I wouldn't have talked shit to anyone.
Yeah. Well, see, I think the Lions are just like a very underdog type of mentality because they have
grit.
Yeah, they're just it's a grit city, or what isn't Detroit called something like Grit City?
I think it's the Dan Campbell thing, and then it's grown into the whole city. But I saw the word grit more than I've seen it in my entire life in 2 days in Detroit.
It is a gritty town, but I think the fan base has just been waiting for this opportunity to like talk shit for the last 2 decades. So now they finally can, and they're just here for it. Like, I don't think I'd be the same. It's just tough to say because when you compare other NFL franchises to the Lions, literally nobody's had it worse than the Lions. Like when we were talking to Mark the Caddy on our episode a couple months ago, he's like, you don't get it. Like they haven't won a playoff game in over 40 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, something like that. They've been to one playoff game.
Like, why do they still have an NFL franchise?
Yeah, so them being top of their division and one of the better teams in the NFC, they were showing out for it. And who was it? Somebody was like, yeah, it's basically like giving a bunch of meth heads.
Oh, it was Brett Kane.
Brett Kane,
Our buddy,
Shout out Brett Kane. It's also his birthday today. Happy birthday, Brett Kane. But What did he text you? Like,
Yeah, let's see what he said. It was, and I don't even know if he wants me to read this or not, but he asked how the stadium was, and uh, I was like, the stadium's awesome. One of the weird things, was the fact that they don't have a jumbotron in the middle of the arena. Or would you? Well,
yeah, they don't have a drop down jumbotron.
yeah, which is wild.
Allie says I would have been talking shit. I don't know. I honestly felt bad for them. I just felt bad for Lions fans in general. We did mention, winning playoff games and Super Bowls a few times, but yeah, other than that, it was a good stadium, but no midfield jumbotron. You had to watch on either of the sides. So that part was a little weird, but very loud, cool stadium, and Broncos shit their bed. So
Brett Kane, he goes, how is it other than the score? And I said, it's very loud, louder than any dome we've been in. The fans are showing out. He said, they've waited 30 years for a team worth of shit. You walked into a house of meth addicts and they just met Walter White.
Yeah, see,
like that
absolute.
that offense is. And then I said, Spencer's going to try to talk shit and maybe fight someone. He said, please keep him away from the riffraff. So
we did a pretty good job of that. Although when we were walking home, we were next to Coney Island, which I definitely wanted to get a fat chili dog at like,
it was like 1, 2 in the morning. Yeah.
And we were at a stoplight about to cross the street, and this car of humans stops at the stoplight.
Nice gentleman.
Looks out at us. We're wearing our Broncos gear, and they just basically said, the Broncos.
Screamed at us.
They screamed at us, and normally I'm the one to react, but I was tired. I was hungover from the night before still. And Mitchell goes to give him a thumbs up, but all I can see is his hand coming out of his pocket, and I lost it on him.
Yeah, he thought I was trying to flip them off or like bring out my finger guns, Josie Jewell style. Or I just literally gave him a thumbs up, and Spencer goes, "What are you doing?" Like screamed at me for a half hour. I'm like, bro, of all the things that you've done and the things you've said, and you're gonna jump on me for giving them a thumbs up. Oh, I also got to say, we argued like
the entire night after the
game had us on tilt, but we argued because I had Russell Wilson on my fantasy team. And so if you didn't watch the game, I mean, a lot of people did because it was the only game on Saturday night. They basically shoved it down our throats. We were calling timeouts on defense, like trying to get the ball back, whatever. They go down. They had no need to go down and score. They score again. So I'm like, okay, why don't we send our offense out and at least not like lay down and just let them rub our belly like we're some wiener dogs? Like, why don't we try to go score? Maybe, have some self-respect. And they send Stidham out. They run the ball 3 times. And I was on tilt at that point.
When I tell you Mitch was going absolutely nuclear about Russell Wilson not being in the game with 2 minutes left, down 25, that is an understatement. He was flipping out, talking about like basically ending our season. And then we're in the Broncos players area after, not a big deal, but we're yelling at each other about the shit performance they put on, the difference that we have in the idea of the rest of the season. It turned into a complete just a argument for 4 straight hours.
Well, yeah, Spencer thinks that this season is a nice stepping stone for us, and I don't really want to divulge and just fully have it out right here, but I don't think there's any sort of stepping stone. This team is clearly not built to win a Super Bowl with its currently constructed roster. Something needs to change there. So us making the playoffs, like you saying it's a stepping stone, that's like a Lions fan mentality. Like, if we can sneak into the playoffs, that could really like turn our franchise around. We're one of the most winningest franchises in football, like historically. We don't need a character season. We don't need a stepping stone. And I'm not saying I expect Super Bowls or bust, but it's pretty clear that this team is not built to compete. The winning streak was fun, and we still could get into the playoffs. I just think that there's no sense in, it's always fun not watching a super shitty team like that for sure. But at the end of the day, what do we stand to gain by, winning these games or even getting into the playoffs this year? If we do get into the playoffs, we're going to get boat raced the first round. I'll bet against the Broncos all day.
All right. Well, we'll bookmark this. I don't want to get into this again
We'll circle back
too far, but Mitchell just thinks the team can go 2-15, and then all of a sudden next season anticipate being in the Super Bowl. It's not like going from bad to making the playoffs to then getting better players, believing the team can win and winning a Super Bowl. But that's all.
Here's my reasoning. If we were taking the stepping stone with a quarterback that I think is going to be around for the next 5 years, totally different story. Can we just can we leave it at that? Is that a good?
Yeah, and we can argue about if we think Russell Wilson's going to be around or not, but we're not. This is a golf podcast.
Yeah,
believe it or not.
Well, Sean Payton hates Russell Wilson. Let's be real.
Yeah,
you can just tell.
It appears that way.
Yeah,
it definitely appears that way. All right.
Should we talk some golf?
Yeah. Do we have anything else from the trip?
Had a really great dinner, Prime and Proper, Detroit. If you're ever in the area, shout out that place. That was very, very good. No free shout outs, whatever. It was just a very good dinner. We also were standing next to Riley Moss, who, us being Iowa fans, Spencer was like fangirling a little bit, but he wouldn't go over and talk to him. So somehow if this video gets to you, Riley, we'd love to say what's up, get a picture with you next time we see you wherever. But Spencer, it is a little tacky if you're in the players area, like you're there to see a player. Our buddy Justin Sternad, number 40. It is a little tacky to like go over and want to take a picture with somebody else. But Riley Moss is a dog. One of the last, real quick before we get into golf, this took the Twitter world by storm. All black football team versus all white football team. Rashard Mendenhall tweet. Riley Moss would be in that white secondary.
Yeah, it would be
Cooper DeJean, Riley Moss.
Yeah, it'd be two Iowa corners holding down the back end for the whole white team. But we're definitely not
Reed Blankenship. They forgot about him. Eagles safety.
Yeah,
but yeah, Riley Moss in the secondary. Yeah, exactly. So
QB1 all NFL white team.
We were fangirling on him a little bit.
Yeah, and then I realized he's like 7 years younger than me, and I'm like, oh God, like, sir, can I get a picture? Would it be cool if you could stop talking to your girl for 5 seconds so I can get a picture with you? I just couldn't do it. All right, let's talk about a little golf. One quick shout out we do have. So our boy Alec Ramsey runs the golf house in Indiana. So if you guys are in Indiana,
Fort Wayne, check
it out. It's a great area, not for only golf, but it's a workout facility. It's just the golf house is obviously more golf, but that whole facility is incredible. And Alec works there, runs that place.
A lot of Notre Dame players work out there. A lot of local, like, NBA players work out, NFL players work out there if they're in the Fort Wayne area. So it's a very sick place.
Yeah, and they have a new employee from our home state of Colorado, and want to give a shout out to Owen Deese. Owen Deese, new employee at Golf House. He randomly told Alec that he watches and listens to the podcast. So thanks for listening, Owen. Appreciate you, and shout out to you. Enjoy working for Alex, even though he's an idiot. No, we love Alec. But yeah, so let's get to a little golf. Let's start with the 5 players to make it through Q School. We'll talk about some of their stories. And once again, if you guys are just listening to this pod, welcome. But we are big Monday Q info guys. A lot of the stories, we can get on here every week and talk about who won on the PGA Tour and who's going to win next week and all that stuff. But a lot of the little stories that maybe go, big stories in the golf world, but they go under talked about.
Yeah,
on
they're
broadcasts
underappreciated by the general media.
Exactly. So Monday Q info and multiple other sources put out, of course, the 5 players that qualified for the PGA Tour will have full PGA Tour status in 2024 at Q School, which Mitchell mentioned earlier. First time in 10 years that this has happened. And we've talked about it on the pod a little bit before, but how cool of a sport is golf that anyone could have showed up that weekend, paid their entry fee, and now has full professional status on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things that I just want to break down a little bit of Q School for anybody that's not familiar, because a lot of people don't realize the expense, everything that surrounds it. It is $5,000 per stage to get in, just to enter. So there's pre-qualifying, first stage, second stage, final stage, and they call it school. It's not school. It's basically just qualifying. But anywho, everybody's like, why do they call it school? Like, do you have books and shit? No, you just play golf. But it costs 20 grand if you make it to the final stage. So it's a lot of money. Not everybody's got 20 G's laying around. A lot of these dudes have sponsors, have things like that, but it's a significant financial investment. And they haven't actually had PGA Tour qualifying school. What do you say since, is it 2013?
Yeah, it would be 2013.
2013 was the last PGA Tour qualifying school because they've seen these guys that make it through Q School. Realistically, like there's 0.1 of the 0.1% that can get through Q School because you have to play that good for, you know, a 6 to 8 week stretch. You have to play some of the best golf in the world. It's hard to really put it into words. But then even those dudes that get through, if they don't have any prior experience on the PGA Tour, like that's a big leap. Imagine hypothetically just me, and I'm not even anywhere near that area, like near that level of competition. But if I got super hot, you know, and that's the crazy thing is anybody could do it, like anyone. Airbud could go, you know, if he played golf, he could go get on the PGA Tour. Maybe that's another Airbud movie. Might have just hooked them up. But me having no prior experience, like Spencer's going to get into it, but one of these dudes has had no status anywhere. He was playing mini tour events, and he's a very good mini tour player, but that was the same shit I was playing in. And like, I'm, you know, there's levels of mini tour players, but this dude goes from mini tour player to PGA Tour member. Like, that's a big leap. That's a massive leap. There's no other sport that you can really like compare it to because it's not really possible anywhere else. But they found that these dudes that earn their PGA Tour cards right off the bat in Q School that have no prior status or anything, they tend to struggle their first year, which totally makes sense. They're getting used to the travel. They're getting used to the facilities. And that is really the toughest thing is like getting to the PGA Tour is harder than staying on the PGA. Getting there and staying the first few years is the toughest thing to do. These dudes that have been on the PGA Tour for 10 years, played all these courses and know where they're staying, know how to travel, you know all the tips and tricks. They have it much more figured out than these dudes that are brand new to all of this, haven't played any of these courses. So basically, they took the PGA Tour qualifying school away because they wanted these dudes to just go straight to the Korn Ferry Tour and at least have a season of that kind of level of professional golf under their belt before they could make the leap to the PGA Tour. So now they re-implemented this, which is going to be interesting. We'll have to follow these dudes throughout their first PGA Tour season and really see what they do, because it's just hard to put into words what kind of jump they're taking from having no status or even PGA Tour Canadian status to now being a full-time PGA Tour member.
Yeah, it's a huge career leap, but also you're playing more golf. Because the more you play, the more money you stand to make, and then the more you can continue to play. It's just like a big cycle of like you're in it now, and now you got to stay in it. But going into Q School a little bit, so the top 5 and ties earn their PGA Tour card. It ended up just being 5 players. The following 40 and ties earn exempt Korn Ferry Tour cards through the second or third reshuffle. Basically, that means they're going to get to play at least, I think it's guaranteed 8 Korn Ferry Tour events, and then the better they do in those, they'll earn themselves more starts on the Korn Ferry Tour. And hopefully at the end of the year, if they're in the top 25 points, they're headed straight to the PGA Tour. And then the next 20 past the following 40 earn exempt America's Tour cards. And then all the rest earn conditional Korn Ferry Tour and America's Tour status. So those guys, the conditional America's Tour and Korn Ferry Tour status, they're still paying to play in the Korn Ferry Tour events. They're still paying, their entry fees for America's Tour, but they're getting a chance to try to earn either full status on the Korn Ferry Tour or parlay that into a year on the Korn Ferry Tour, which then parlays that into a year on the PGA Tour.
So many levels.
There's levels to this shit. The kind of funny part about PGA Tour Q School is it's not just a bunch of guys that have never been there before. So Sean O'Haire and Scott Piercy were at PGA Tour Q School this year.
Scott Piercy just had PGA Tour status. He didn't you bet on him to win and he pissed it away?
I think so. I think at some point,
He had like at least a top 5, I think, on tour this year.
yeah. So he was in Corn Fair on the PGA Tour Q School roster this past couple weeks.
Maybe he could improve his status or something. He's got to have some sort of status.
Yeah. I mean,
you got to think so.
you
But
would-
I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
but they can improve, like you said, they could improve their status to full if they get in the top 5. And they
Yeah.
both have 4 PGA Tour wins. Sean O'Haire has 421 career PGA Tour starts, and he's in Q School.
That's
So
insane.
and Sean O'Haire, not to mention, so I don't know how old Sean O'Haire is. I'm going to look this up.
I think
real
he's
quick.
probably in his early 40s, late 30s. He was. Do you remember the Sean O'Haire story? Have I told you about this?
No, he's 41.
Okay.
Before we get into that, just a real quick guessing game.
Okay.
How much career money has Sean O'Haire won on the PGA Tour?
I'd guess somewhere in the 25 to 30 million ballpark.
$25 million.
Okay.
So he's 41 years old, out here grinding at Q School after netting $25 million. The only thing I'd be grinding at was
How I'm going to get out to my pool in my backyard.
yeah, the flight between my beach house and my lake house and my mountain house.
But see, that's the thing, dude, is expenses go so quickly on the PGA Tour. Like, I bet he netted less than half. I bet he's netted $12 million. And realistically, I'm not saying that it's not a great living. Don't get me wrong. But this dude has been out on the PGA Tour for probably 20 or so years now, or playing professional golf for over 20 years. He was one of the OGs to turn pro. He didn't go to college. He turned pro when he was like 19. His dad pulled like $3 million out. His dad basically is kind of one of the first stories where his dad pushed him so hard to get to the PGA Tour that there was a point where him and his dad no longer talked. Like, his dad spent millions of dollars getting Sean O'Haire all the resources necessary to the PGA Tour. And there was a point where their relationship was so bad because the expectations that come along with the money his dad gave him, all of that. But when you think about it, 20 years, say he nets 12 million of that, 10, just call it 10 million for a round number. He's making $500,000 a year net for 20 years. And that's a great living. Don't get me wrong, but that's by no means John Rahm money. Well, now, especially but it's by no means $5-10 million a year type of money. Like, that's a very above average living. But in the grand scheme of, like, you're a celebrity on TV playing a sport and you're netting $500,000 a year over a 20-year span, like, that's not that great. You know what I mean? Like, that's why he's still at Q School at the age of 41. And partially because this dude is literally all he knows is golf. So he's just going to play it for the rest of his life until he can no longer play, because that's just, some dudes are just lifers. All you know is golf. He's not going to go start selling insurance or anything. He just is going to play golf until he can't anymore.
Yeah, and hopefully parlay that as he gets older into a Champions Tour status.
Well, and they do give Champions Tour status depending on, there's tiers, there's levels, shocker, to what you get immediately to the Champions Tour when you turn 50, depending on your career on the PGA Tour. So I bet he'll have status immediately when he turns 50. So let's see, 2032, I'm sure he's just like waiting for that year. He's just grinding it out till he turns 50. And he could kind of have like a career resurrection on the Champions Tour, like Bernhard Langer, Tom Lehman, those types of dudes. But yeah, he's 41 years old and going back to Q School. That's a treat.
Yeah, so let's go through the 5 players that qualified. So Harrison Endicott, 26 years old. He turned pro.
Endicott?
Endicott?
Yeah, there you go.
Endicott. I just like to sound out my words.
Phonetic. Is that phonetic?
Phonetically correct is Endicott.
Okay.
But it's probably Endicott.
Whatever.
He took first place overall, which was actually a $50,000 payout from just Q School.
Generous.
And players that have full PGA Tour status, they get a $500,000 advance to begin the season. It's basically an advance on their tournament winnings with the remaining balance forgiven if they fail to reach that in earnings. So that kind of is basically he made $550K winning the, conditional money. But in order for him to get to all these events, getting full status on the PGA Tour.
And in all honesty, you probably spend, I would bet, paying your caddy, paying, other people, I bet you're spending probably $200,000 to $250,000 a year. So he's by no means pocketing that, but they just started that this year, correct? The $500,000.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, yes. So that is a great help to these dudes. So they're not out of pocket to get to these tournaments, pay their caddies until they win money. They kind of get a little bit of a head start off the jump. So
Yeah, and a cool story. The next guy, Trace Crow, great name, but so he was on the Corn Ferry Tour last year. He was so close to falling down that he was going to miss events. And then he was the last player in the field in the Chicago event. He shot 4 rounds of 25 under and 1 in a playoff, but still finished 38 in points, which is 8 short of earning full tour status. So now he was on he was going to be on the Corn Ferry Tour, but he upped his status essentially and is now full status PGA Tour player going into 2024. Blaine Hale Jr. He was a mini tour guy, kept grinding basically through Q School and earned his card, and will tee it up at, most of these guys will obviously be teeing it up at the Sony Open in Hawaii, Tournament of Champions. None of these guys will be in, most likely. And then Hayden Springer, he is 26. He turned pro in 2019. Great story for Hayden Springer. So he actually had his daughter pass away very recently, 3 years old.
She had a very rare genetic, I don't really know exactly how to put it, and I don't want to say it incorrectly. Is there details on it?
Yeah,
there?
I got you. Hayden Springer. So he was playing, he won 2 of his 7 PGA Tour Canada starts and finished inside the top 10 in another 2. Those were his only 2 professional victories, but he, let's see, his daughter battling trisomy 18, a severe developmental disorder stemming from an extra chromosome. So she wasn't initially expected to make it out of the hospital, but she persevered and made it to 3 years old. And so just insane that he went through that last month, turns around and uses that as basically fuel. And now he's got full status on the PGA Tour going into 2024. And like, I can't even imagine like trying to focus on golf.
I was going to say, I feel like that can pull you one of 2 ways. And he let it pull him in the right direction of using it as motivation and like kind of doing it for his family, but like in her memory, which is very cool because a lot of people do not have the mental fortitude, probably me included. I'd be like, why am I even out here? Like what? It really gives you a lot of perspective, but I respect him for sticking to his grind and getting through Q School. That's insane.
Yeah, and the last guy to qualify, Raul Pareda. So he is now the only active PGA Tour of Mexican descent.
Wow.
It goes back, 20 years to the last guy. So Raul Pareda has qualified. His rounds, like looking at his rounds from the final of the Q School, he had 11 birdies, 13 bogeys, 2 eagles, and 2 doubles. So
just an absolute roller coaster.
Just a roller coaster ride the whole way through. But now is a full-time PGA Tour member. And it's crazy because like he was playing PGA Tour Latino America, twice finished 12th in this Cup standings. And he did have conditional Corn Ferry Tour status, but had no guaranteed starts on the Corn Ferry Tour before this week. So he goes from no guaranteed Corn Ferry Tour starts to full-on PGA Tour status for 2024. So I want to shout out to those 5 guys. Their lives definitely changed this week, and all of them not having full, it's not like a guy not like Sean O'Hare where he's like, all right, back on where I've been, I know what I need to do. These guys are all now going to be essentially full PGA Tour status for 2023 or 2024. God, it's crazy to think that 2024 is already here.
I know. This year's flown by.
Before we get into
real quick, I'm sorry. Can I tell a quick story? Because this is from Monday Q Info's Twitter. So Hayden Springer, you know how you said top 5 in ties? If Hayden Springer would have bogeyed 18, he would have still been in, but he would have gotten Danny Walker and Satoshi Kodaira, both their PGA Tour cards. And I don't know if he knew that or not, but he could have single-handedly done that for them, and I think he made par. Like, how defeating does that have to be, to where you're the fate of your next season status lays in the hands of another dude. And like a dude like Hayden Springer, that seems like he's so well liked, such a good story. You're rooting for him to make bogey on 18, although it doesn't affect his bottom line at all. It completely changes your life. So I can only imagine how hard that was for those two dudes, to go through that and then watch him, make par or whatever, and you're back to the Corn Ferry Tour. Like, how that's got to be rough.
Yeah, and like you said, Satoshi Kadera, he won in 2018. He won the Heritage, and it's crazy to think you win a tournament. You're making, at that time it was still over $1 million to win a tournament like the Heritage, and now he's 5 years later and he's fighting just to be on the PGA Tour.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about the guys that never win at all and have been on the tour for longer, or played tour events for much longer than that. But he barely missed 2 birdie putts on the last 2 holes that would have earned him full status. And then Doc Redman, he's played 122 PGA Tour events. He Monday queued and finished T2 at the Rocket Mortgage in 2019. He missed it by 2 shots, but he made bogey on the 16th hole by hitting it in the water, and the 16th hole was the easiest hole on the golf course all week.
Oh my goodness!
So there's all those people that you don't hear about. You just see
that's
the 5
the shit
guys
that keeps you up at night. That he probably won't sleep for a month thinking about that.
Yeah. Oh, it's insane to think about the guys that were right there and don't have their total status locked up, and they don't know where they're going to be playing week to week. They're going to hope they get sponsors exemptions, all that kind of stuff.
I think the PGA Tour is PGA Tour qualifying is probably the most pressure packed event in all of sports. Can you think of anything else where there's similar pressure?
No, you'd have to relate it to like maybe the NFL Combine, but a lot of those players that go to the Combine kind of already know they're going to get drafted. It's just a matter of where.
Yeah.
And
almost like relegation in the like in the soccer world.
Yeah, like I have just kind of found out. We do soccer watch parties here at the bar now, and I was talking with the guy that kind of leads them, not for Leeds United. Great pun there. But no, he was saying like the top. So there's so many different soccer leagues, but if you're in the bottom 3, you get relegated to the league below it, and then if you're in the top 2, and then the other 2 player. I didn't exactly. I mean, it's convoluted. But
who would have thought Spencer would explain soccer on this podcast?
But yeah,
Very
so
poorly,
it's kind of the same thing. And some of these guys got relegated, but go relegated from full status PGA Tour wise down to full status Corn Ferry Tour wise, or partial status. It's pressure packed, and they know that their entire career rides on 2 or 3 rounds of golf. And those 5 that made the PGA Tour may not be the best 5 players if you take 10, they all play 10 rounds at a course, but golf's about getting hot. And when you get hot, stay as hot as you can.
Capitalize on it.
And we'll see it middle of the season this year, coming up June, July, August, like we do every year. Guys like Peter Quest that Monday queue, and then they play well. And then all of a sudden you're like, dude, this guy's top 10, like 4 or 5 events.
You're like betting on him to win events.
Yeah.
Like he's top 10 in the odds.
Yeah, exactly.
It's insane. You've never heard of this guy 2 months ago, and now he's like a threat to win every week on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, and I bet on Peter Quest a lot, and I always bet on the PGA Tour through our friends over at Bet365. You guys can get 2 different offers on Bet365 when you sign up with the code ALLCITY. You can choose between a first bet safety net of $1,000, or you can choose bet $5 to get 115 bonus bets when you sign up. Basically, $1,000 free bet safety net is you put in whatever you want, and then you can bet up to $1,000. If you lose, they'll put $1,000 in bonus bets back in your account, which will make it so that you can replace another bet. So you have 2 shots at winning the $1,000 and putting that extra money in your pocket. Or you can go with the bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets. We Did that last year when we signed up and used bonus bets on a lot of PGA Tour events. And we're going to be betting on the PGA Tour coming up in 2024, starting with the Tournament of Champions. Each week, we'll do a little preview of the next event and give you guys our picks through Bet365. It offers each way betting for golf, which we love. And each way bet doubles your wager and splits your bet into one bet on the player winning and another on them placing. We usually choose maybe 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, but all you do is place one wager and it does the rest for you. You just check off the each way, which is the E/W, and place the bet. Must be 21 or older. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Also want to tell you guys about our friends and the presenting sponsor of Big Drive Energy, and that's Pins and Aces. We're always rocking the Pins and Aces gear. As you know, those of you that listen, Mitchell is a Pins and Aces employee out there
Slanging the gear.
slanging wares up in the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, whole area. But
We will be down at the PGA show in January. If anybody is in attendance, come see. I think we have like a massive booth this year. Like I want to say it's like 50 feet by like 20 feet, or no, even bigger than that. I think it's like 100 feet. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just gonna be there doing whatever I can to help out because I guess it's a zoo, but we got new gear dropping all the time. Some of the stuff I had, like the putter covers that have the roulette table on them, are so sick. I don't even know. They're still available on the website, actually. I know that. But then there's so many special things that they drop, like the new Power Hour stuff that they put out. The Kraken head covers are so sick. Just all these designs. Like I get shocked. I'm shocked because I hear about all this stuff kind of when everybody else does, but all these new things we drop, I'm like, holy shit, that's so cool. Like everything just looks so good that I want to. You can only have like 3, 4, or 5 head covers in the bag. It's so tough to make a decision. You can have unlimited golf polos though and hats, and we've got fire polos and hats.
yeah, and like even these t-shirts, the t-shirt that I'm wearing, if you guys aren't checking this out on the YouTube, check it out at YouTube or at youtube.com, youtube.com Big Drive Energy. But like the back of them, they've got
So
the big
fire.
logo on the back and then the small, like nice logo on the front. And it's one of the most comfortable shirts I've ever worn. It's like
Yeah.
this kind of stretchy material. Don't pop my shirt. Finger popping each other's shirts. But no, go to Pins and Aces also has an app. So that's a new thing. Check that out.
And they have we have in-app exclusives where there's certain things you can only buy on the app. So that's another wrinkle that they've kind of added, where if you want first dibs on anything, you can save your shipping info, you can save a payment method, you can order new things in like 2 minutes.
Yeah. As we know, apps are the best. Check it out, pinsandaces.com or on the app. And always use our promo code BDE when they don't have sales. That'll save you 15% off your entire order. Once again, that's BDE, like Big Drive Energy, at pinsandaces.com. All right. Kevin Kisner getting into the media realm.
Dipping his toe.
I love it. And it's also hilarious because he's like a decently good PGA Tour player, but he's like, oh, yeah, I haven't won and I'm not playing in the Tournament of Champions, so why don't we fucking send me to that?
Yeah.
And then also he's going, he's going to be the Tournament of Champions, and then he's going to
The waste management.
do the waste management,
which will be so electric. Yeah, he's had a rough couple of last years on the PGA Tour, so I think he's kind of setting his sights now on his future in the golf world. And I almost equate him. The first thing that came to mind when I saw that is, you remember when Jay Cutler retired and everybody was like, he should be on broadcasting. Because he's just an unfiltered dude that doesn't mind sharing his opinions. One of the most outspoken, kind of fun guys that just, I would say Kevin Kisner's kind of dry like Jay Cutler. He's got a pretty dry sense of humor. Comes off a little bit more serious, but he's hilarious. So I think that he's going to add so much to a broadcast. And like, we've got Smiley Kaufman now. I just like the fact that former players, Smiley's a little different because he's like my age or maybe a little older, maybe early 30s. So he had a lot of success, relatively speaking, on the PGA Tour early, completely lost it and was like, I'm going to get into this broadcasting thing. Same with Colt Knost, shaped like me, like a propane tank with ears. Just a big, thick dude, former player, one of the best amateurs in the world. Struggled a little bit on the PGA Tour, and now he's full-time broadcasting. So, I mean, what do we have? I give it 2-3 years before Kisner's full time on PGA Tour broadcasts.
Yeah, well, and Kisner's a great guy to have because of his, like you said, his dry sense of humor, but he's not. I think the further and further we get into our lives, where we're currently at, or just the sports world as it moves on, the players becoming broadcasters. I don't want to shut down broadcasting schools. There's definitely, in the NFL every week, there's a different voice that I like listening to, and there's so many good actual broadcasters out there, but. Just having former players that can talk about the sport that they were just playing. Like, it's not like, oh, I played in the 1960s. And golf doesn't change all that much. I mean, the clubs have definitely changed a ton.
There's a few former players that are not great at announcing in golf that I can.
No, they're not great. Yeah, but that's what.
But that was like they were playing 30 years ago.
Right,
so.
They're playing when there was 12 dudes on the PGA Tour, and it was just like, oh,
if you broke 74, you're on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, exactly. But like Colton Oast is a perfect example of what I see Kisner kind of turning into, where they give you the on-course reports, they're following guys, but they also have some personality to add to it.
Absolutely.
Kevin Kisner, Colton Oast is hilarious and will always be like, oh, I would do this here, or I can't believe, I would have hooked this one in the water. Just like some comedic relief to what is somewhat of a serious broadcast in golf. But the more they move away from that and get guys like Kisner on, get guys like Colton Oast on to talk about places they played 2 or 3 years ago and where they were, now they're behind the ropes instead of in front of the ropes.
Yeah.
It just adds that feel of personalizing golf more and making it more accessible to the general public.
And I think also like them still having buddies on the tour and kind of being in the now on the PGA Tour with the players, like the courses they do like, the courses they don't like, the way things are set up, the way things are going. And like you said, in the sports world, they're becoming more and more accessible because of social media and other things like that, that are making it more of, anybody can make a TikTok page. Like Ben Griffin is blown up on TikTok, and he's just kind of I wouldn't say random, but he's a little bit more of a random PGA Tour player. He's not won anything. But these guys, anybody can have a voice now, which, we've seen the negatives and positives of that. But I think getting these guys now, like you said, in the broadcast booth that are buddies with PGA Tour guys that were just playing these tournaments, it gives a different sense to the viewer of, what's going on the PGA Tour, how these guys feel about certain things. I love the idea of it, and it gives them instant credibility. When a guy has just won on the PGA Tour a couple of years ago and now he's talking about it, it's not, back in my day in the 80s, this and that. It's just staying current. And the few things that the PGA Tour has done somewhat well is trying to stay a little bit more current with their broadcasting, getting Johnny Miller, I'm the best to ever do it and nobody will ever be better. They didn't force him out, he retired, but just bringing in new blood into their broadcasting booth makes all the difference. Like you have Jim Nantz, who I never want to leave. Jim Nantz, is he done at the No, he still does the Masters. He's done at the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, he's slowly phasing himself out of broadcasting the bigger events.
Yeah, he's probably a borderline billionaire by now with the amount of money he's made. So no necessary need for him to keep working. But there's those staple dudes that you want to hear from. And then there's dudes where you're like, can you I kind of went on somewhat of a crusade this year against what was his name? I totally even forgot his name. The old
Paul Azinger.
Yes,
who's done. Thank God.
Yes, they cut the fat there because he was terrible in my opinion. So yeah, I love the move. And Kisner, I definitely still has status, so he's just going to kind of hop back and forth between broadcasting and his PGA Tour career for the time being until he has a couple more rough years, and then he's just full. You'll be able to tell in real time how Kevin Kisner's playing career is going by the amount of broadcasting he's doing.
Yeah, now it's this next year it's 2, then it's 6, then it's full status.
Yeah,
full broadcasting status.
He's like, I have no status on the PGA Tour. I now have full status in the broadcasting booth.
Yeah, but going to create a new wrinkle and just add some more personality to golf broadcasts. He had one of the greatest quotes of all time. Back in 2021, they asked him if he can win anywhere, and he said, no, probably not. I'm not going to win at Torrey or Bethpage Black. And then they asked, well, a follow-up, why do you play then? And he said, because they pay a lot of money for 20th place. And that was like an all-time golf quote from Kisner, and now we'll get to hear him on the broadcast.
Yeah, and there was one other quote that was hilarious because he's been struggling with driver a lot. Like, I guess he just hasn't driven it well, and that's historically what he's done very well when he's had success on the PGA Tour. And so they asked him, like, what's so frustrating? He goes, can you imagine going out and hitting 200 drivers on the range and just hitting everyone dead straight? And then you get on the golf course and you have no idea where it's going. Like, he was just that's just the kind of straight up like responses you're going to get from him that I can't wait to hear on the broadcast.
Yeah, and it's so relatable to us and myself personally, but also just the golfer in general. When you go on the range, you like stripe everything, you feel great, and then the first tee shot, you haven't hit one slice on the range, and then you slice the first tee shot into the 9th hole. I've done that 50 plus times at least.
Fair amount.
So before we get into Angel Cabrera being reinstated and Fairwear 4, I want to tell you guys about our great friends over at Burrito Express. I'm actually headed down to Phoenix, I believe mid-January sometime, coming up soon, and I'm going to do an event at Putting World, which I'm really excited to see. Full indoor putting golf course with a bar. We've touched on this on the pod before, but where golf is moving, and lighted golf courses, indoor putting courses, Top Golfs, X Golfs, all those kind of places, indoor simulators, really have revolutionized the game of golf. And I'll be down at Putting World in Arizona in January doing an event. And I can't wait to get down there, but I also can't wait to get down to Burrito Express, my favorite spot every time I go to Arizona. We go to Arizona quite a bit. We'll be down there for the Waste Management as well in February. Just a great spot to go if you're playing golf, if you're doing a bachelor party, if you just want to get out of the cold in the winter. You don't like seeing snow like myself, head down to Arizona, but make sure you check out Burrito Express. Steak breakfast burrito is by far my favorite. No cheese, potatoes. They do it right, and they can also smother it in chili, which is the best. Unless you're trying to eat it on the golf course, then it's not. You don't want it smothered because it'll be smothered all over your lap.
And you better make sure there's plenty of porta potties out there.
Plenty of porta potties and plenty of napkins. But check out Burrito Express. Their Tempe location is right on the ASU campus. They've got 6 locations all around Arizona. Also, I want to tell you guys about our great friends over at Breckenridge Distillery, the spot. We're actually going to go up to the distillery here in a week or so.
I want to take my girlfriend. She's never been. I've raved. So I've said so many good things about it. She's like, I need to go check this place out.
We're going to bring my son up to the distillery with us, and he is going to be the one to drive home. He's 5 months old, so he probably won't actually be driving home. It'll just be a race between my wife and I who gets drunker the quickest on whiskey. Breckenridge Distillery is the highest distillery, not only in elevation, but also in ratings. They have a great high rye mash bourbon whiskey. It's all we drink at home. It's great for a gift for the holidays if you have somebody that you don't know what to get them. Generally speaking, if you want to get them some whiskey, they're going to appreciate it. And it's something you obviously buy yourself a ton, but when you get it, you're like, oh, cool, I got another 2 weeks, or if you're Mitchell, 3 days of not having this bottle.
Shots fired.
But
you did have a bottle ready for me sitting downstairs when I got to your house. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I had a bottle.
That's a good brother move
of vodka and also a bottle of Breckenridge whiskey, which is this time of the year, winter and whiskey just go together.
Correct. It is whiskey season indeed.
So check out BreckenridgeDistillery.com. Even if you're not in Colorado and can't visit the Breckenridge Distillery site, you can go on to BreckenridgeDistillery.com and get that in all 50 states. They've got some great Christmas holiday bottles coming out right now that you can get. And like I said, perfect for a gift for that person that White Elephant, perfect gift, alcohol. Everybody will steal it back because we're all alcoholics, and
drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly with Breck Distillery. Maybe that's just us, but check it out, BreckenridgeDistillery.com. All 50 states, you can get it delivered to you, and I pretty much guarantee that your local liquor store will have Breck Distillery. It is very good bourbon, very good whiskey, and it's in almost every store wants it. So,
Vodka, rum, whatever you like, Breck makes it.
yep, their
Very
vodka
well.
is great. I'm a big vodka guy as well, as we know. So the Breckenridge vodka is just as good as the whiskey. All right, Angel Cabrera reinstated. This is so we've been talking the last couple weeks about PGA Tour players moving to live or losing status, but Angel Cabrera gets his status back, and it feels on the outside like a win right off the jump. You're like, oh, that's cool. Older dude, came from literally nothing.
A golf legend, separating sports and personal life. He won 2 majors, the Masters back in 09, and that was like a legendary Masters. I always visualize him in that green jacket, so that's kind of an iconic photo of him. But yeah, he's an Argentinian native, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I just said that correctly. I'm very impressed with myself. But yeah, one of the old school dudes that came from nothing and played his way up to this point in golf. And I actually watched him hit balls on the range at Cherry Hills a few years back when we had the BMW at Cherry Hills. I watched him fly 3-wood. And obviously all these dudes don't normally play at elevation. So it's kind of a free for all for them when they get up here because the ball goes so much further. I was watching him hit hybrids into the fence on the back of the range, which was almost 300 yards.
Yeah, a ball striker, and you mentioned he won the 2009 Masters, also won the 2007 U.S. Open. Like he won 2
stretch
out of probably 8 or 9 majors.
Brooks Koepka like.
Yeah, and so it was kind of funny because we used him as the YouTube thumbnail picture, and we were trying to find something more recent, and our wonderful producer Marissa was like, can we get something from the last 2 years? And Mitchell just goes, he's been in prison.
Yeah, could we get his mugshot?
The most recent photo I saw of him was him wearing a mask in a courtroom. So
yeah, you don't.
Not gonna
we
use
could
that.
have used that as a thumbnail.
I guess we could have, but no, it's kind of I don't know. Right off the hop, it seems like I said a good story, but got some pretty serious
dark shit.
Yeah, sexual assault warrants, and he was finally arrested in 2020. And
he was put on like Argentina's red list, I think I read, which pretty much means that they're like searching, like basically you're at large. Like when they find you, they will arrest you.
Brazil's federal police arrested him on an Interpol warrant. He had been on the red list, which is used to seek the arrest of a person wanted by legal jurisdiction or international tribunal with a view to extradition. I have no clue what that means.
A lot of big words in there.
But yeah, like Mitchell said, I mean, this guy didn't go to school after he was 8 years old, and ended up making to the PGA Tour. Had some issues with alcohol, had a lot of bad habits, didn't have any parents, and then goes on to win a U.S. Open, wins a Masters, and he just it kind of turned his career. And it was like it's going to be crazy to see him show up at the Masters because like
wow.
You have these guys that their life goal is to play in the Masters. And now you've got a 52-year-old that hasn't competed on the professional tour since 2020 in the Champions Tour. And he's going to be teeing it up at the Masters. And funny story this is from his coach, actually. When he won the Masters, he left his green jacket at the hotel, forgot it. His coach went back and got it, and he just said, "Oh, you can just keep it."
What?
And he had it for the next year. So his coach just had his green jacket for the next year.
That is insane. I will say, pretty wild statistic. His first round straight out of prison was a 66. Who can take 2 years off golf? Like that's next level riding a bike. And golf is the opposite. Like golf is not like riding a bike. People can lose their game over one winter. He spends 2 years in prison, just comes right back out, fires 66 like it's his job, because it is. But I cannot believe and really, I'm curious, how hardcore do you think this prison was that he was in? Like, do you think he was practicing golf? Do you think they were giving him any sort of special treatment, or do you think he was just a run-of-the-mill inmate there?
I bet you they were giving him a little bit of special treatment. There was even some like not riots in the streets, but people that were like, let him out of jail, like let him.
He's kind of a folk hero a little bit.
100%, exactly. And I'm trying to find this other story, but basically they were saying like one time he shot a 60, and it was just like a fun mess around round, and he was like drinking heavily, like could barely see by the last hole, and just
Some dudes are
fired
good
60.
at that.
And it is insane when you see guys that are this talented, and then they put in the work, of course, but they're just that talented.
Like a John Daly. He's like South America's John Daly.
Yeah,
Is what it sounds
he's
like.
A Brazilian John, or yes, an Argentinian John Daly. But yeah, it is kind of questionable for the PGA Tour as far as like, do you let him have status again with all this that it's gone on? And Monday Q Info had a good tweet that was like, another player who was arrested for domestic violence last month was at Q School, including Angel Cabrera getting reinstated. But Jake Stiano, who bet $127 on the Bryson Brooks event 3 years ago, is not allowed into Q School. So not a great look for the PGA Tour and their people, allowing a guy that's had a
multiple domestic
pretty
violence
bad past.
charges. I think there's actually one of the guys on the that just got from the Korn Ferry Tour to the PGA Tour with previous domestic violence charges, and they just kind of let that roll off their backs, like they really didn't care. So yeah, definitely the PGA Tour just keeps doubling down on being idiots. Actually, will you pull up that Victor Hovland quote? I think it's in that group chat when you get a second, because the PGA Tour just keeps going downward in its in its what would you say, they're just the way that the public views their the way they run things, you know what I mean? Like their public image is taking a real hit these last few years, and I don't really think that this move is going to help them at all. There's another good tweet that was like, dudes leave for the Live Tour, oh, you're banned for life, you're exiled, all this. And then there's dudes with sexual assault charges, and they're like, oh, everybody has a bad day, welcome back. Like,
yeah, that's basically what it boiled down to. And this quote from Victor Hovland says he won't go to Live Golf, but he blasted the PGA Tour management. Quote, the management has not done a good job. They almost see the players as labor and not part of the members. After all, we are the PGA Tour. Without the players, there is nothing. When you get to see what happens behind closed doors, how the actual management actually makes decisions which are not in the players' best interest, but best for themselves and what they think is best. They are best businessmen who say that, no, it should look like this and that. There's a great deal of arrogance behind it all. And that's, more quotes that come out like this obviously make it easier for players to go to Live. Victor Hovland seems pretty based on the PGA Tour right now and like he's going to stay, but so did Jon Rahm. And we saw what happened. So, yeah, not a great look for the PGA Tour allowing Angel Cabrera back on, but it kind of is what it is at this point. So you have to figure out, they're going to deal with things the way they think they need to deal with them. And that apparently letting him back in. We'll see. Maybe I'll have an ankle brace on and tease it up at Augusta.
that would be wild. Well, I mean, if he was arrested in Brazil and he's in America, I don't think there's an ankle bracelet that tracks 2,500 miles. So
that's true. You would know about that, wouldn't you?
You'd think.
Just kidding.
That was a week. Big difference.
All right, let's wrap it up with Fairway or Four. Mitch, you want to kick us off? So Fairway or Four, for those of you guys that are new, we basically take something that we do in our lives and we let you vote on it. We let you vote whether that's fairway or whether that's four. Essentially, fairway, it's like, all right, that seems pretty normal. It seems like something I would do. And if it's not, then it's four. It's like, no, that's crazy. Essentially, that's not something that I would consider normal. We don't know what normal is anymore. But I'll actually start with my fairway or four this week. And so I am a big not let your food touch guy, and I can't get past it, and I don't know if that's like a thing that I'm just, I know people are like that in general, but I can't stand when something I eat tastes like something else that I'm generally supposed to be eating, and I'm a big, I also eat my food kind of in a circle. So I like to eat a little bit of one thing, a little bit of the next thing, a little bit of the next thing. But my favorite part of the meal, if there's multiple, there's fries and there's burger, whatever it is like I like to eat my favorite part last. Like it's like a little treat, you like to save yourself a little bit for the end. But are you a food not touching guy, or are you okay with it?
See, I think you probably think I'm a weirdo because I like to combine bites. Like I like to get a little bite of everything together. So I think we're kind of I get what you're saying from that angle, but at the same time, there's definitely certain things you don't want to touch, and there's certain things you can allow. But like hypothetically, I'm thinking like baked beans and like a bite of mac and cheese together.
Oh wow, that sounds like complete psycho mode to me.
You don't like that?
No,
really. That sounds so good. See, like I like to make weird combinations with my food, so I'm gonna go 4 on that. Like,
yeah, there's a few. I mean, to me, there's a few things like cake and ice cream, for instance, is one that just pops up in my mind that you can easily mix together, but not baked beans and mac and cheese. That sounds absolutely ludicrous.
See, like I just think of like a plate of like 4th of July barbecue right off the bat. Like you got your potato salad, you got mac and cheese, you got baked beans. I'll take a bite of all 3 at the same time.
Oh wow,
is that psycho shit?
Yeah, that like actually kind of makes me cringe.
Makes your skin crawl.
Yeah, it makes me cringe a little bit.
Okay. Well, to each their own. I do agree. Like, there's certain things though that I don't prefer to touch. So I guess, everybody's different. That's okay. Okay. So my fairway 4, I just took a couple of flights. Went Newark to Detroit and Detroit to Denver, and I actually had to fly Delta. I didn't have to, but it made more sense for me to fly Delta from Newark to Detroit. And then, because I'm a big United Airlines guy, I have the United credit card. I like to rack up as many miles as possible and basically try to travel somewhat for free. I get 4 times points at restaurants, and all I do is I cook a lot, but I also eat out a lot. Let's put it that way. I just eat a lot. So no matter if it's at home or on, if it's a home game or an away game, I'm fucking eating. So I hadn't really flown Delta recently, and I can honestly say I think that they're better than, and I don't really know if you have flown Deltas, if you can talk about this, if you can give your opinion, but I honestly think Delta's just better than United. I think Delta's like the best airline out there.
I haven't flown. I'm mostly between Southwest, sometimes a little Frontier.
I hate to say Southwest has gone really downhill for me.
It has. It used to be I'm old enough to remember when Southwest was the only flights with Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And it was like the big sell. But I personally enjoy the roulette game of
finding a seat. I hate that shit.
Love that.
No, I like to be locked in. I like an aisle seat because I like to be able to get up whenever I want. I don't like to feel anxious about, when I can get in and out of my seat. I will say real quick, this dude, we've talked about it before, but people that stand up right when the plane like gets to the gate and they're standing there waiting, like they have no patience for anything. I was in the first row of the United preferred seat, the economy plus seating, whatever. And this dude, I was on the aisle right when the plane doors, when you pull up and they turn off the seatbelt sign. This dude crawled over me. He was probably like in his 60s, and he's just like, excuse me, and like goes full spread eagle over my body. And I'm just sitting there like blinking profusely, like, is this really happening right now? But it feels like every time you fly anymore, some shit goes awry. Like, it's never all rainbows, and it's a nightmare at this point.
Yeah, every flight you take, I had 10 seconds left of boarding to my flight to Detroit before they closed the doors, and there was a lady in standby, and I rolled up to the gate, and the lady, before I could even ask, like I could even scan my boarding pass, the lady standing in the line for standby asked the lady working for the
Airline?
United. She was like, "Is that Spencer?" And she was like, "Yeah." And she, God damn it. And she's like all pissed off because now she's not getting on the flight. But I
Well-
made it 10 seconds to spare. Sat in my seat.
It gives me
and
such
knocked out.
anxiety just thinking about it.
It gave me anxiety. I thought like I was trying to be chill. I really try to be as chill as I can in most situations, but this guy was talking my ear off. And then when I kind of started to lose it is my bag got through security and through the like scanner, but then the bag behind it was being
so yours
stopped.
was
So
sitting-
mine's just sitting there, and I literally started to like crawl into the thing because I was like, I know I'm gonna be late. Like I have no time to waste on this.
Yeah.
But no, I think I will say United's good. United has chargers for your phone, USB ports, big dub, but I haven't flown a ton of Delta, so I can't.
Delta, I had a charging port and it just didn't work. And I asked the flight attendant, I'm like, my charging port's not working. She's like, yeah, sorry. I was
I
like,
mean, is she just like IT? She's just gonna get in there. And
well, I didn't know if there
rewire
was,
it?
but I didn't know if there's a button I needed to press because sometimes you have to like turn the
Got it.
charging ports on. And she was just like, yeah, I can't do anything. I'm sorry. I was like, okay. But I did get free, I got a free Miller Lite in the the Comfort Plus Delta on the Delta flight. So I appreciated that.
Wow, free beer, no
Free
charging
beer,
port.
still charge for Wi-Fi. It's a racket.
Yeah, but you kind of have to have it. At least you can get free texting. Which the most wild thing about that is when you don't pay for Wi-Fi but you get the free texting, your alerts still show up, like Instagram alerts, ESPN alerts.
Do they really?
Yeah, they show up, but you can't do anything about
See,
them.
I have like all my notifications off other than like my messaging.
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of a psycho like that.
Yeah, that's wild.
Or
too.
I have them muted where I'll like, if I swipe down, all the updates are there, but I don't get like push notifications. Like I hate that shit. Like where my phone's constantly like something's lighting up on it. I can't do it.
Okay, I feel that. All right, that wraps it up for this week's edition of Big Drive Energy. Tune back into our YouTube, or if you listen any podcast platform that you listen to. On Friday, we have our second to last festive Friday, sponsored by Breckenridge Distillery. We get on there, we'll do a draft of holiday-related things. This Friday, it's going to be best Christmas songs, so we're going to draft the best Christmas songs and talk about it. And you can go on there and vote. We're also doing a giveaway right now. So make sure to check our X or our Instagram. We're doing a giveaway for a Cobra Aerojet driver. Comes in a really great package, almost like a gun package. And it has a bunch of tees in it. It's got a Cobra wrench. It's got a little Cobra bag where you can.
It's got a head cover.
Yeah, head cover, the whole bit. Check it out right there on the YouTube. Make sure all you have to do is retweet that tweet and tag one of your golfing buddies, or if you're on Instagram,
And follow us.
And be following us. Yeah, that's like A1 is you got to be following us.
Yeah.
Follow us on Instagram at Big Drive Energy Pod and get into the giveaway, or follow us on Twitter, X at Big Drive Energy. We appreciate you all tuning in. Have a great weekend. To those of you that celebrate, have a Merry Christmas. This is a great time of year to be with your family. We get to be together in studio a couple more times. I'm very thankful for that. We'll talk to you guys next week. Peace.